Good morning. This is Patrick Lee, and it's time for Midweek Motivation Live. I'm glad you're with me here today. We'll give people just a minute to tune in here online. We are live on Facebook and LinkedIn right now, live streaming. The show is broadcast live to both set platforms and then uploaded directly after to YouTube. And we actually are live on two platforms and then immediately uploaded to YouTube right after. People already tuning into the show today. The title of the show today, Victim or Victor? What are you in life? How do you go through life? How do you define yourself? Those are a lot of the things we're going to be talking about today. Thank you, Cody. Good to see you already on. You know, my good friend Cody over at Fire Slice Pizza also has great Italian food, lasagna. Oh, my. Green chili, tortellini with your choice of chicken or sausage, baked ravioli, a lot of different things there at Fire Slice Pizza, and they're in there getting ready to cook. And Cody's usually watching Midweek Motivation every week, getting ready to get the day going. Man, I love that. Appreciate you, brother. Good to see you on here today. The topic of the show is, yes, victim or victor. I've been hearing a lot of stories. I've been talking to a lot of people lately. Cody and I just had a meeting with a friend that we're going to introduce to you on the show here very soon. We may not do it as a midweek motivation show. We may do that as a community spotlight segment. I'm not sure yet, but we'll have that person introduced to you soon. But from that meeting, this came to my mind, and it's something that I want to talk to you about. And it's something that we all go through in life, and it's a victim mentality versus a victor mentality, that of a champion. Hello, Sal. Good to see you watching the show for South Texas again today as well. Love it when you get to make it on and watch the show. People tuning in from all over. I love that. Numerous people lately that have come up to me and said, hey, man, I appreciate the show. I watch you all the time. And that just, like I say this all the time, that really trips my trigger. That blesses my socks off. I'd show you my socks, but my socks are still on right now, but they'll be off soon. Anyway, I appreciate that. But in this meeting, yes, Victor in Jesus' name. There's the comment so far. There's the comment of the show. Victor in Jesus' name. Victim or victor, which are you? And in this meeting I had, Cody was there attending. We're looking at putting together a benefit for a local nonprofit. And a nonprofit that goes in and works in the lives of those that are victims of life. And that's not the whole gist of the show today, but it's part of a lot of things that have influenced me to want to do a show with this subject in mind. Thank you, Ross. You're the man, my brother. Love that. Ross loves the show. Ross is going to be on the show soon as well. Ross is going to be doing an interview with me here soon, and we're going to talk with numerous people. I have 3 people so far that are committed that want to do an interview just about the show and how the show has impacted their life and what they get out of it. And if that can be shared with someone else, then that's all the better, and we can increase our influence. Life is all about relationships and influence, and I want to be known as a person that influences people for the better. I would like for them to help them switch that mindset from victim to victor, just like I would with you today. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you some stories about me. And this person that Cody and I were in this meeting with told us a story about some victims that they work in their lives and in the situation that they find themselves in. And as we talked over in the past, on this show and with other friends outside of the show, we talk a lot about the different situations that people find themselves in. And I know that sounds funny to hear me say that, but that's what a lot of people say. I came to my senses, and this is the situation I found myself in. I have a relative right now that's living in an RV, traveling around, finding themselves. I don't know that I could say that we just get lost in life, but maybe we do. Maybe we wake up in our own home and find ourselves in a situation that we don't like. And what I think that really means is just we had an epiphany. We came to an awareness that we were not happy in the situation that we were in. And that may be the case with many of you today. If you're watching this show and you say, Patrick Lee, I need some motivation, help me change from victim to victor, I have found myself in this situation or this situation, or I woke up and realized I was being taken advantage of in this way, or this is what happened to me in my life. And you may not think that you can change from victim to victor because of your story. I'm going to tell you a story right now, a little bit of a story about my past. Some of you have heard some of it. And when you listen to other motivational speakers or people online that are really trying to help people in life, they will share snippets into their life and how they overcame things that they overcame. I've shared some of those in my life, and recently had a conversation with a person last night that had betrayed my trust, a person that I had counted on to do some things, and they let me down. And that does happen in life. And they're my age. They've been through a lot in life, and we're at the height of their career. And then whenever things did not go well and they disappeared and showed back up, we had to have a hard conversation. And the first thing that came out of their mouth was this: you don't understand where I've been and what's happened to me and how I have been taken advantage of and how I found myself in the condition that I found myself in. And they started to go on and on and on and start telling me these things. And they said, you don't understand. So let me just tell you a quick story about not understanding. And that we'll switch here. What's your story? This is a little bit about my story. This person told me, you don't know what it's like to not have anything. And I said, that's not true. You don't know what it's like to live in your car. I said, that's not true. And he goes, wait, what? I said, why don't you sit down for a minute, stop talking and listen? Because you don't even know who you're talking to. You have a preconceived notion of who you're talking to, but you're talking to a man that started working illegally at 14 because I didn't want to be a burden on my family. My family didn't have a lot of money. My dad worked 3 jobs, took inside jobs. My mom worked as a janitor to help feed 5 kids. I moved to Texas literally with a friend on a whim. I did not want to move to Texas. I had moved upstate in Oregon, was an assistant pastor trainee at a small Pentecostal church. And that pastor decided it was time to move on and wanted me to go with him. And I didn't want to. So I went back home. I didn't think that life was the life for me at that time. So I moved back home for a short time, moved in with some friends. My best friend, he decided to get married and wanted to move to Texas, reconnect with family. And I had determined already that my story was, I'm in my hometown on the Oregon coast, and I'm probably going to die here like all of my friends from high school, if I don't die first of drug addiction or alcoholism or get shot for messing around with someone's wife, because those were the 3 prevalent stories that were going on in my hometown at that time. Small town on the Oregon coast. I'm talking 40 years ago, okay? Many things have changed there, some for the better, but most for the worst. The liberal indoctrination of the people and the children of this generation in that state right now, from the government on down, is incredibly horrible. But I did move to Texas. I jumped in the U-Haul truck with my best friend and his wife. We moved to Texas in search of a new life. Many of you have heard some of this part, and they moved back quickly. They did not last in Texas, and they moved back to Oregon, and their life took a different journey. And I decided to stay at 21 years old. I decided to stay in Texas on my own and make my own way. And I could have said at that time, hey, I moved to Texas. It didn't work out for me. I'm going to go back to Oregon, and I'll go back to that life. My friend luckily shook enough sense into me to say, you're not going to stay here in Oregon. You are going to go with me to Texas. We're at least going to go try and live a new life, right? And I said, yeah, let's go. And that was the best decision I ever made. That decision led to numerous other decisions. My friends moved back to Texas, or back to Oregon. I stayed in Texas. And I got back to San Angelo and lived in my car. Everything I owned was in a Chevy Monza, little dark blue Monza Spider. And Thank you, Terry. You are such a blessing. You are such a blessing. Everything I owned was in my car, and it was stacked all around me like the cockpit of a fighter jet. Everything I owned was in that little Chevy Monza Spider. And I started calling friends looking for a place to stay. I moved from one town in Texas back to the other town I'd originally went to, and slept in my car a few days, and eventually found a friend to let me come crash on his couch. And I went and crashed on his couch for a couple of weeks, and he was like, "Hey man, love you, bro, but you need to you need to find some place to live." It was a studio apartment, you know what I mean? And basically he had a bed with a little half wall, and I was on the other side of the half wall with on the couch, and we were like roommates there for a minute, and it was obviously we were not made to be in a space that small. And I eventually reconnected with another friend, and we became roommates for a while, and he ended up becoming one of my best friends and sang in my wedding. Through a course of events there, I went through cars. I couldn't find a car that would keep running, and my cars would break down. I'd rebuild an engine, put it in there, and then that car would break down, or I'd sell it, and ended up walking to work. Got a job in a supermarket, and I started walking to work. I worked the night shift, and I walked about 3/4 of a mile each way in the winter, in the snow. And I would talk to my mom, and she'd say, "Hey, I want to send you something for Christmas." And I'd say, "Why don't you send me some winter gloves and a really heavy winter coat and a scarf and a knit cap, because I walk to work in the snow every night and I'm freezing." And she was very taken aback and said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I'm freezing. It's hard to get a job. My car's broke down. I mean, it's hard to get a ride to work." Back then, you didn't just call a taxi. We didn't have Uber. We didn't have anything like that at that time. And I walked to work to keep my job. And I worked in shoes on concrete all day. I had some Roper boots, and I worked in my boots in a bakery, learning how to be a professional baker. And I would come home and have bruises all the way around my feet from one side to the other. All around my ankles would be black and blue. And my friend would see my feet, and he would say, "Dude, you've got to take a few days off. You can't continue like this." And I would tell him, "You don't understand. I have to continue like this because I can't quit. I can't change what I'm doing. I have to make my own way. I can't give up and just go back to Oregon like a failure, like a quitter." And this guy I was talking to was very taken aback and did not believe that about me. I said, "I don't care if you believe me or not. The truth of the matter is the truth. Truth is absolute. Nothing you say changes the truth. The truth is the truth." I went and moved up here to Amarillo, Texas about a year later after struggling in that bakery, getting promoted, not making any more money, and finally having a supervisor that wanted me to move up here to where I live now in Amarillo, Texas. And he said, "I've got to get you out of this town. You're dying here. Your story ends here, and you're going to write a new story in Amarillo, Texas." And I was terrified. I had a car that cost me $100. It was another Chevy Monza, a little white Chevy Monza with spray painted red Trans Am rims on it and Buick Skylark doors, because they were the same body style. And the doors of my car stuck out an inch more than the rest of the car, because that was the difference in the trim package from the Chevy to the Buick. And I had a 5-gallon bucket for the driver's seat in my car. There were no inner door panels, and I had 2 sets of vice grips, one on the window and one on the door latch to open the door or to roll the window down, because I didn't have the interior to the car. And I drove to Texas with this car, going through oil about a quart a mile. And within a week, I threw a rod in my car and blew the engine. So now I'm living in a new town, staying and I just rented an apartment from a friend who ended up becoming my wife of 33 years. And she sort of fell in love and took pity on this skinny 125-pound stranger that she'd never met, with bleached blonde hair and blue eyes, who had been living in a car that cost $100 and didn't have an interior. And she obviously saw something in me and allowed me to take her to work and drive her car to work until I could get a car. and I saved up a couple of paychecks and I bought a car for $500 that I saw for sale in the window of a gas station. I'm just telling you, what's your story? This is my story. So as this guy continued to tell me I didn't understand, he started, and I unraveled this story. He started getting a little more understanding of why I didn't have as much pity on him as everyone else. Because it's hard to get pity out of me. I'm not a hard man. Ross, had vice grips on your latches like that in your 67 C10? Yes, sir. A lot of you know. Maybe many of you have had vice grips on the door of your car in the past. So when people look at you and say you've achieved some level of success, obviously you've had a leg up, or obviously someone handed that to you. You have no idea what their story is. So everything that I've acquired in life, I've acquired by hard work. No one has given me anything. And you've read this and you've heard this from other people say no one gave me anything. I'm the guy that I'm a self-made man. I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. Well, I didn't pull myself up by my bootstraps, but I had a never quit mentality that I got from my dad that worked 3 jobs and my mom worked to feed 5 hungry kids because we didn't have any freaking money. You know what I mean? I'm not rich today. I'm rich in friends. I'm rich in relationships, but I've learned to change my story. You know what I could have said? I married my wife. We had our first baby. We moved to Carlsbad, New Mexico. Candace, my daughter, many of you know her, was a year old, maybe 2 at that time. And my mom called and said, your oldest sister, Debbie, is dead. And I said, what happened? And they said, well, they say she slipped and fell in the bathtub and drowned. It's obvious that she was murdered, and it's an ongoing investigation. And then that investigation went on for 10 years before the person suspected of her murder was ever brought to trial. And the evidence at that time had disappeared. Many of the detectives and judges and police officers who were involved at the time had retired or passed away or had moved away. No one wanted to get involved. And at that point, the evidence had disappeared, and the evidence they had was deemed circumstantial. And the person suspected of murdering my sister walked away and is still free today. And everyone I know involved at that point was very bitter. Many people talked of finding a way to get revenge, and I'm not a revenge guy. But how many of you know that I could have been? I wallowed in self-pity a while, and I started to adopt that victim mentality and say, man, my sister's gone. She was the oldest girl in the family. Everyone looked up to her. And I could have used that as a weapon to start battling life and let life beat me down and become a victim. And it's something that I just couldn't do because I knew that she wouldn't do that. And my parents wouldn't let me do that. And over the years, forgiveness overtook pain and suffering. We've talked about this in the previous show. When you can change the word of this to forgiveness, maybe you need to change the word money to forgiveness. When you change the word victim to forgiveness, those things turn into your story of becoming a champion. You get control of your story. Is pain in life permanent, or can we find a way to get past it? Pain doesn't have to be permanent. Pain, emotional pain and scarring, is for a season. And I believe that emotional pain is healthy. You can challenge me on this. I get it. It's okay. But emotional pain, damage caused to you by a person in your life. Maybe your dad walked out on you when you were 5 years old. Maybe your dad died when you were 10 years old. Maybe your mom went to go get a pack of cigarettes when you were 7 and never came home. Maybe your mother, I have friends right here in this town whose mothers were prostitutes, and they engaged in that activity in front of their little girls in a motel room. But they didn't let that define them. The lady that Cody and I were talking with the other day, my friend Cody here on the show, goes in and ministers to people that are in the prostitution world. people that are being trafficked of all ages, male and female. And you're going to get to hear her story very soon in the work that they do. So is pain permanent, or can we find a way to get past it? I absolutely believe that pain is there for a season and a reason, and it's always something that we need to grow from, right? And I'm not talking about physical pain. Maybe you broke an arm, but you know what? That broken arm does hurt for a while. My good friend Gary just had surgery on his shoulder, and now the pain was excruciating and unbearable and getting worse, not better. So he's going to go in for a second surgery so they can figure out what happened. Did it get infected? Did they reconnect something wrong? Did they do something wrong in the surgery? Because pain, regular pain, doesn't have to be permanent. You get a splinter in your finger and you pull it out and it hurts for a while and that pain goes away. When someone passes away in your life, it's terrible. It's excruciating pain. You don't think you're ever going to recover. But over time, you do know, anyone that's lost someone in life, you do know that you do. Ross says pain is an opportunity for forgiveness. Wow. And better understanding of God's love for us through his endless forgiveness. Dude, there's the new comment of the show. That's the one comment of the day right there. So true. So true, my friend. Pain is weakness leaving the body. How many of you have ever heard that? Right? Pain is weakness leaving the body. A lot of gym rats say that. Can we find a way to get past it? I believe that we can over time. Time is a great healer. Time gives us the opportunity to redefine who we are. And that's what I would challenge you to do today. If you find yourself in a place where you are feeling the victim, you have a story, but let that story be the thing that you tell to cause you and others to rise up, to become the victor in your life. A lot of people in the church world, I'm in the church world, and a lot of people in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, the thing that was going around, the trend was people being prayed over for generational curses. Am I a believer in generational curses? Do I believe that the sins of the father or the sins of the mother or the grandmother, the grandfather can be passed down? I believe that they can. And I don't necessarily believe that it's always just a demonic oppression. I believe that it's a lifestyle, it's a habit that people get in, and kids mimic or become who they are raised by, right? As we get older, we start finding ourselves becoming more and more like our father or our mother. We start to look like them. We laugh like them. We tell the same kind of jokes. And we start becoming a new version of that parent, that person that raised us. Maybe it's a foster parent, someone, a stepdad, a stepmom that took you in and raised you, and you start finding that you're a lot like them. Well, the bad habits those people have in life get passed down to you and me. I am thankful that my dad's worst habit that I can remember was dad jokes and coffee. And I tell a lot of dad jokes and I drink a lot of coffee, just like my dad. Everyone tells me I'm a younger twin of my dad. But the thing that I took down from my dad, the generational things I took from my dad, who also left my life 2 years ago, was a work ethic. And I want to work for everything that I get. So I work hard. I'm lazy some days, just like you. Man, there are some days I come to the office and I want to flip on YouTube and just listen to worship music or watch someone build a cabin in the mountains because I need to unwind and recharge my batteries. But at the end of the day, I never go through a day without accomplishing something because I want to be a victor in life. I want more for my family. And that's what I learned from my dad and my mom. Work hard. Do your best to be honest. Tell the truth. Help other people. And if you can do that, you're a rich man. Can we find a way to get past the pain? I believe we can, of course, through prayer. The power of prayer is incredible. And when you pray for those that have hurt you, when you learn to pray for those that have left your life and done things to you, when you can forgive those that have hurt you, you are on the road to getting past that pain. Forgiveness, like I've said before, sets you free from the prison you put yourself in by living this life, by repeating the habits that those people created in you. And when you do that, you start writing a new story for your life. Are you willing to write a new story for your life? I was. I chose not to live in my car anymore. It's cramped. I like elbow room. You know what I mean? I like a nice couch to lay down on and a coffee table to kick my feet up on and a TV to watch and some music to listen to. So I decided to start writing a new story for my life. I wasn't going to be homeless. I wasn't going to live a defeated life. I was going to work. I got into the real estate world about 9.5 years ago, going on 10 years now. And it's been good to me. But the first 5 or 6 years, I was learning my trade. I learned a lot of things the hard way. I learned a lot of things wrong, but luckily I had a great friend and partner that helped teach me how to do things the right way. And when you're honest and you honor God first and you love people and you do your best to help them, you can't help but be successful because life is reciprocal. The law of reciprocity is unavoidable and hard work will come back to you. And the goodness that you give to other people cannot help but come back to you. And that's part of writing your new story. Let's replace our victim mentality with that of a victor, a person who became a champion of change. That's really what I want you to do today. Become a champion of change. What do you need to change in your life? Who do you need to forgive in your life? What pain do you need to set free from your life? Assign that pain into your past and let it go. If it's physical pain, I understand that. Go to the doctor, get treatment, whatever it is. But we're talking emotional damage here. We're talking baggage that you need to let go. You need to let it go. Learn to change what you say, and you'll start to change what you have. Change what you say, and you will change who you become. Are you going to continue to regurgitate the same old stories of the bad things that happened in your life? Or are you going to be the person that stands up and says, it doesn't matter if this was how mom was, I'm not going to be like that way. I'm not going to be that way. Or these are the bad habits that grandpa had or dad had, but I'm not going to follow in those bad habits. I'm going to change. Find the good in those that helped raise you and start doing the things that were good and let go of the things that were bad. And watch yourself switch from victim to victor. The way you define yourself in life and the way you move forward is the same way people will define you as well. Terry says, get the junk out of your trunk. That's right. That steamer trunk full of junk needs to get tossed off the back of the train because we are moving forward. Hey, guys, man, I love you. It's been a pleasure having you here again with me this week. Change your mentality from victim to victor. Become a champion of change and see what happens in your life. See if the people around you don't start recognizing that and pulling more greatness out of you. My friends pull greatness out of me. They give me opportunities in my conversations every day to make good decisions and to say good, positive things when I could be negative. If you don't have friends like that, you need to drop some of them and get you some friends that do. Hang out with people that bring out the best in you, people that you can also pour positivity in, pray for, change their life, change their story. At the end of the conversation with this guy last night, he was taken aback and blown away and has made a commitment to change. And as long as he stays on that track, then everything will be good. And if they don't, then we just have decisions to make. But a better understanding of how your life has been, how you can share things that have happened in your life, can help pull greatness out of people. And that's my challenge to the person I was talking to last night as well. You can change if you want. You can pick yourself up, dust yourself off, start all over again. That's an old song. That's an old song from a movie that came out long before I was ever born. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, start all over again. Google it. It's a great old tune. This has been Patrick Lee with Midweek Motivation Live. Love you guys. Thank you for coming back each and every week. And I'll see you next week with another topic, Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. If you or anyone you know is interested in buying a home, selling a home, or investing in real estate, click on the link in the comments below this video to my digital business card created by Nick and Michael at Content Cards. Get an appointment in my calendar. You can do that there. You can find all the social media platforms I'm on and a little bit about everything I am about here at the Patrick Lee Group. I do this show to you free every week as a service for that reason. If you or anyone you know is interested in real estate services, give me a call. I'd love to talk to you, see what we can do to help you. Until next week, this is Patrick Lee saying bye-bye.